On the gun event today, what kind of gun does the Vice President have, and when did she buy it?
That's something for her office to speak to.
The reason I'm asking is because you have this event today, but the VP, as District Attorney, sponsored Proposition H in 2005. It would have banned handguns within San Francisco city limits and required that residents turn in the handguns that they already owned by a certain deadline or face mandatory jail time. But she's out on the campaign trail now saying that she's a proud gun owner and is not going to take away your guns. So can the White House get us an answer on that? Because she hasn't, and her campaign officials also haven't answered that question, even on television.
Look, a couple of things here. When it comes to the VP and owning a gun, she can speak for herself. The campaign could speak for that. Her office can speak for that. That's for them to speak to. It is not there's no conflict here when we're saying that we want to see responsible gun ownership. That's what we want to see, responsible gun ownership. I think that is what's important here. At the end of the day, gun violence is an epidemic in our country. Think about our schools, our grocery stores. It's an epidemic. We have done the work. We have seen violent crimes go down because of the work that this president and this vice president has done. There's an office to prevent gun violence, and that is something that she leads. But we're asking for responsible gun ownership. That's what we want to see. That's what's important here. And if people don't understand that, I don't know how to further even explain that to them. Our kids, our schools, there's an epidemic here. There's an epidemic. There are drills happening in our schools right now. That's something that the president's going to speak to. That is traumatizing some of our kids because of this epidemic. And so that should be the focus. How do we make sure that we end this epidemic? We want to see responsible gun ownership. That's what we want to see.
I think the question is not about responsible gun ownership, though. It's about, her past position saying that it's supporting a measure that would have required that non-law enforcement or military residents of a city turn in their handguns, so no gun ownership, or face possible mandatory jail time versus what she's saying now. And then also not answering the question of her gun ownership.
Again, that's something that she's going to have to speak to. What I can speak to this moment and this time, what we've been trying to do for the last 3.5 years is make sure that we are dealing with an epidemic that is existing in our communities, that we see in our schools, that we see in grocery stores. It is an epidemic here. And what we're trying to do is prevent gun violence. And we have seen that go down. We have, because of this work, because of the executive actions, because of a bipartisan legislation that was able to be done under this administration to deal with gun violence, something that we hadn't seen in 30 years. So there is some bipartisan support here to deal with a responsible way of having gun ownership. We need to do more here. We need to do more. Go ahead.